Thank you. So now we can start discussing your interview process. And if you could tell us like the number of rounds and the focus of each and every round mainly, and also if you could tell us the number of students who were shortlisted for this interview, this profile mainly.
Okay. So your first question was the number of rounds that I had, right? So in this JF or this profile, I had two rounds basically, and the first one was a purely technical round, and the second one was technical plus HR, you can say. I didn't have a purely HR round at all. And the duration would be like the first round went on for more than 1.5 hours.
Okay.
And yeah, and the second one was about 20 minutes, I think 20 to 25 minutes. So, so in the first round, I had a panel of interviewers. Three interviews were there, and in the second, only one interview was there.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the
Yes.
thing.
And do you remember the number of students shortlisted for the interview
Okay,
for that
yeah,
profile?
yeah.
Yeah.
I think 7 or 8 were there.
Okay, only 7 or 8, and out of those 7, 8, only two students have finally been selected.
One.
Okay, only you have been selected.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, Gayatri. So, Gayatri, we can now discuss your rounds. And as you have mentioned
Mhm.
that there were two different rounds, technical and then the mixture of technical and HR.
Yeah.
And of course, the first round was around 1.5 hour. So,
Mhm.
if you could tell us like the things which happened in that round mainly.
Okay, sure. So the interview was, I can say, completely based on the projects and the courses. They didn't ask something out of the blue,
Okay.
and it was completely fundamental uh, of the projects and of the courses, whatever I had done. So, as I said, I had a panel of three interviewers. So, um, uh, they asked me basically to explain a certain project, and then then they asked me to explain the principles of working of the devices which I was involved in. For example, I was working on flash memory and MOSFETs, DRAMs, and RRAMs. So one by one, they asked me how these things work and the basics basically of how what is the working principle. And then the basic concepts of the MOSFETs, those are very important. If you ask me for a device engineer, MOSFETs and MOS capacitors and PN junctions, obviously. So the whole interview was based on the fundamentals, and then there were some physics aspects of what will happen if this happens. If I increase the temperature, what happens? If I increase this aspect, what happens? If I decrease this, what happens? And so on. So uh, it was, I mean, should I give you the details of the question or it's just a generic thing?
Yeah, if possible, the details will be helpful for the students who will be sitting for placements.
Okay. So basically, I was, like I said, MOSFET basics are very essential. So you will be asked about long channel MOSFETs and short channel MOSFETs and how do you differentiate between them. And they asked me to draw uh, the different voltage current graphs, and and then they asked me to draw the energy band diagrams for those devices. And yeah, this was from the project point of view, but they asked me for the courses also, something which I have not done in the project, which was fabrication. So VLSI technology was one of my courses that I had taken, and it was there in my resume that I have done this and VLSI technology and microelectronics lab. So there we had done fabrication. So they asked me about the process flow of the fabrications, on how, uh, what is the process flow sequentially, and some details about it. So, um, and then there is a quantum aspect also in my project. So they asked about those also in quite details. So some of them I could answer, and most of them I could not. So yeah, basically it was the fundamentals that were asked, and I felt in the interview it was more of a discussion than a question answer session.
Yes.
And if I went wrong somewhere, then they helped me with some hints so that I can come off. And if I could not, then they gave me the answers basically.
Yeah.
Uh, and in some aspects, they didn't give me the answer, saying that you should figure it out yourself because you have come off this far. Uh, so yeah, I mean, one has to make sure that the fundamentals and the basics are on point on whatever projects they are working on and whatever courses they have done.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like you mentioned that the interview was mainly focused around your resume only, the courses and the projects which you have been working on, or which you have worked upon.
Yeah.
And you have also given some of the basic things which they were keen to know.
Mhm.
So anything tricky or any tricky question which were asked in this round, which
Not really. I felt like most of them were the basics that I should know. And if I didn't know, then I should have known.
okay,
And
yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So any question like tell me about yourself or these things in this round?
Yeah. That's there in all of them. So they ask about yourself, um, and then they go for the projects. They explain one of the projects or two of the projects.
Okay, okay. So any means important question or any discussion on your MTP?
Not as such as a importance in because it's an MPP. It was not there. But since I explained it first when they asked me to explain a project, so that's why I got the questions based on those.
Okay. Yes. So that way the first round got concluded. Means the discussion was mainly on on your courses and the projects, and then this round got concluded.
Yeah, yeah.
So any advice or any takeaway from this round, if you have to give some advice to the upcoming students, so what will be your advice for so how to tackle this round primarily?
So one has to be confident about themselves actually,
Okay.
and know the concepts because that will give you the confidence in
Yeah.
turn.
Yeah.
If you are if you know the concepts, then you don't have to be scared that, oh, if he asks this or if she asks this, then what will I do, because you would know the answer. You can come up to the answer sequentially because uh, they if they see that you are approaching in a certain way, they don't look for you to say the right answer. They look for how you approach the answers, because all the questions that were asked to me were not direct, right? It was not like they asked me something from a book and I know the answer because I have read the book. And it was more of an inference type question that if this happens, it's a hypothetical thing because I have not done it. If this happens, then what do you think the behavior will be? So this is something that you have to think and come up with. So if you are confident in the fundamentals and know how the things work in the very basic level, then I think it will be a, a good exercise for your brain to think about certain things,
Yeah.
how they work. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so now we can talk about your second round of the interview, in
Mhm.
which, as you have mentioned, that it was a mix of technical plus HR, and only
Yeah.
one interviewer was there in that round. So, if you could tell us about that round.
So in that round, the same questions start. I mean, they start with the same questions about tell me something about yourself, explain one of the projects, and then one thing that I would like to advice to people is that you should know how to pitch in your project within, let's say, 1 minute, because in your mind the project is very huge. It has so many aspects. You're working on it, and you know that there are so many aspects, and every aspect is as important as the other. But for the person you are explaining, they don't need to know every aspect of it, because they might not understand it. They might not have those fundamentals. If we are talking about the HR, uh, about the technical round.
Mhm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So you have to explain to them as a layman, and it should be precise. It should be compact, and it should be over by a minute or two at max. So that pitching in of your project or your idea is very important, and you should practice it. It's something that I could not do, and that actually take up some time. It takes up some time when they ask, tell me something about yourself, and they ask, explain your project. Uh, so that explain your project should be over in 2 minutes and not stretched to 5 minutes.
Yes.
So that is something I felt that I did wrong there.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes. Okay. Yeah, this advice will be very helpful for the students. They need to know how much to speak and how to speak.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So apart from these two things, like explain your project, then the other things which the HR on. Yeah.
Um, they asked me about what I wanted to work on.
Okay.
They gave me a brief idea of what they are working on
Mhm.
and asked me which areas I am interested in.
Oh,
So, um, so as to, I think so as to know that if how am I going to fit in that job role. So there were, I think, in this JF or in this job role, there were different aspects like modeling, TCAD modeling, compact modeling, and device reliability, and so on. So there was modeling, there was characterization, and so many things going on in the same job role. So they gave me a brief overview of what all they do, and asked me which aspect am I most eager to work on. So that was basically the question, and then they explained of how they worked, and that they worked. There is no work from home. They worked throughout the lockdown. Are you ready for that? Things like that.
oh, so in their case, all the employees were working from the office only.
Yes.
Okay. That's I think great, in fact, because some people miss quite a few of my friends. They do not like work from home.
Yeah.
Yeah. So any typical HR question like strength, weakness, something like that?
Not that I remember of. Not
Okay.
not a typical HR round, I would say.
Okay. So yeah,
Actually,
yeah.
actually, he said at the end that HR would contact you, and I was waiting for the HR to contact me, but then there was no other round left. So I was left out hanging that what's happening? Am I selected? Am I not selected? How to know? Is there going to be another round or not? Yeah.
Okay. So that you were expecting 3 rounds, but
Yeah.
2 rounds happened actually.
Yes.
Yes. And any question on your academic gap, like that?
Um, in the first round, the technical round, they asked me about the gap, but it was not very extensive. I just answered them what the gap was, and I mean, just explained what happened in the gap, and then they didn't extend that question anymore. They went on to the next.
Okay. Yes. So, yes, Gayatri. So I think then we have discussed about your interview, process, and you
Mhm.
have explained things in great detail. So then we can discuss, another aspect of this placement season mainly. Like this time, everything was being done in an online mode. So, what is your advice, means for the students who will be attempting online interviews in the upcoming placement season? What are the key things which one should keep in mind?
First thing is network connectivity, obviously. Be sure your network is fine. And the other things are be in contact with the placement people because it gets very confusing when you are at home alone,
Yeah.
sitting alone with your computer in front, and you have no idea what's happening around you or if anybody is going to call you or not. So, uh, yeah, I mean, ask questions to the placement people, like uh, ask them when it's going to happen. And because in one of the interviews, I was given the link, but I was said that somebody would tell me when to join. But then nobody told me for 10 minutes, and then I joined the interview, and then the interviewer was, "You are late." The first impression was that you're late. Why are you late? I have joined for 10 minutes, you're wasting my time, and so on. So, um, so yeah, it gets very confusing when there are many uh, things happening around and you don't know anything about it. So, I mean, be in contact with the placement people, basically.
Yes.
And I think the interviewers would understand if we are late. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, Gayatri. So, Gayatri, then I think we have covered the this part as well in during the interview part, and we had covered the things which we had planned actually. So, definitely we will wrap up with the advice for the upcoming MTech students. But before that advice, do you have anything else to add in the interview round or in the interview part?
Um, mm, I don't think so. I think that's all. Yeah.
Okay, okay. So yes, Gayatri. So Gayatri, then in that case, I think then we can wrap up. But before that, what is your advice or आप क्या ज्ञान देना चाहोगे अगले आने वाले एमटेक लटके इंजीनियरिंग स्टूडेंट्स को, those who will be appearing for placements and
Yeah.
will be targeting mainly your profiles.
So I would first ask them to just be clear on what you want and what you don't. If you don't know what you want, then at least know what you don't want. Because there are many profiles which are in the placement during the placements that you'll get. There'll be software, there'll be IT, there'll be big data, data science, circuits, so many things that you can apply for. So be sure of what you want and what you don't want. And don't settle for something you don't want because that's there. I mean, you have applied for the job, you got the job, and even if you have not got the job, you have applied for it because of uh, peer pressure or something. So don't settle for something like that if you don't want it. So what I would like to say is that just have some focus and know that these are the profiles that I want to focus on and apply for those only. Don't go applying for all of them because you have to get a job. Because that doesn't help at all. Maybe you can get a job, but maybe later you won't find. I mean, it's a decision that you make about your career path, and you may like it, you may not like it. I don't know.
Mm.
So, um, yeah. And one thing that I would like to say is in the campus placements, it's not necessary that you would find a job role which you like. And let's face it, that life may, when you go ahead, when you go out of the campus or graduate, and after that you go for job huntings, then you won't find job roles like this coming for you. You will go hunting and you look for the jobs that you want. So have that mentality in your head that you want to go look for jobs that you want and not jobs that are offered to you. I mean, not jobs, job roles that are offered.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, basically that's the thing that I wanted to say, that being a master student, you should have uh, because you have specified your field, you have focused your field. So be sure if you want that field or not. And if you don't want, then you can do whatever you want.
Yes.
So other thing is be confident when you're doing something and brush up your basics, refine your skills because that's important and that is the only thing which will uh, help you out in an interview or in any arena. I think your skills only, your confidence.
Yes. Yes, Gayatri. So I think your advice will be helpful for them. And as you mentioned that they should take a informed decision, they should be selective. At least you need to know what you do not want.
Yeah,
You should be aware of this thing at least. So that way you can eliminate the things which you do not want, and then you will get to know what you want actually.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. So Gayatri, there is, means I am a bit curious, like when we join any master's program, so sometimes we are not aware of the possible opportunities.
Hmm.
Like we do not know the areas in which jobs are available.
Yeah.
So in that case, what one should do? Like you mentioned that you need to know what you do not want, or what you want.
Hmm.
But in the very first semester, we are not sure of the possible, opportunity. So at
Yeah.
that time, what one should do?
Explore basically. I mean, you should explore the courses. You should explore if there are no courses, then there is always online stuff that you can find,
Yes.
right? So just check if you like the certain courses or the certain aspects of those fields. Uh, you have to explore. It's not like if you are given this, if you are in this particular domain, then you have to work on that particular domain. That's not necessary, right? You
Yes.
can obviously explore things on your own, do self projects, and see if you like them or not. So that exploration is really necessary. And one thing that I found about myself when I did certain courses, where that I was interested in those device aspects more and more, and that's why I took up more courses and saw which area I'm more interested in, MOSFETs or fabrication. In the devices itself, there are different profiles, right? There is modeling, there is fabrication, there is characterization. So you need to experience them to see if you like them or not.
Yes.
So when you experience them, then only you will know how you feel when you're doing them.
Yes.
Without that, you can't know. If somebody tells you that you may like it, you may not like it, that's not up to them to say. Right? It's up to you. So, so yeah, I mean, one needs to explore things. They
Yes.
should take up things and see for themselves if they like it or not.
Yeah, you need to have make your hands dirty, or
Yeah,
you need to have the first hand experience. Then only you will realize. Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, Gayatri. Yeah, Gayatri. So thank you for your advice. It will be definitely be helpful for the students. And so thank you very much for taking your time. Yeah.
Thank you so much.